all come back to the place that we know, and we all come back and stand just to hear your words come tumbling out, and it's then we.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the latest episode of the Digital Diaries. Delighted to be this time virtually as far north as I have gone, up towards Thurso direction, in fact in Thurso, speaking to Christine Firth, who is a teacher at Mount Pleasant Primary School. So good afternoon, Christine.
Good afternoon. Hope you're well.
Yeah, very well, thank you. We were just discussing before we came on air the fact that it's actually quite mild or quite cold outside today compared to yesterday.
It's raining here. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. Disclaimer, I am actually in my gazebo outside, so if you hear birds and rain, it's because it's genuinely birds and rain. It's not for sound effects. So for those of you that haven't tuned in before, Digital Diaries, a chance to chat to somebody who's making a difference in terms of the digital journey. And Christine is somebody who came to our attention during digital drop-ins by coming and asking some questions. And actually we realized, as with a lot of people, that it's not so much digital expertise that perhaps is lacking, it's more confidence. And I think Christine definitely fits into that category of somebody who knows far more than she realizes, but perhaps it's a confidence level. So Christine, do you want to just start by telling us about where you teach, what your sort of background is in terms of your teaching career?
Okay, well, I'm deputy head at Mount Pleasant Primary School in Firth. So I've been at for about 3 years now, but I teach P7 3 days a week, job share with Joanna King at the moment. I'm also a probationer mentor and have been doing that for a large number of years. So much so that I became associate tutor for the Delight students from Aberdeen. Although I've just heard they've suspended the course at present, so that might not be happening very much. I actually qualified in 1984 from Aberdeen College of Education.
Yep.
So I managed to scrape in the 3-year diploma and didn't have to do 4 years, so I don't have a degree. I taught in Pilkington Academy for 1 year, and then I moved to Mount Pleasant in 1985, and I have been there ever since.
Wow. And are you from Thurso originally?
Very, very originally. I'm from like Basingstoke and Tadley. I was one of the atomic incomers up here when I was 3, so I've kind of been here most of my life.
Right. And is that, I suppose is that quite common that people go away from Thurso then come back?
It's quite, I think it's possibly less common now. For example, my daughter often did teacher training and she'd no intentions of ever coming back because she didn't want to live in my shadow, apparently. So she's now quite happily teaching in Edinburgh, walking around in a pair of shorts because it's sunny down there today.
Yeah, I was going to say, people have been asking me that question as well. Mm-hmm. So I suppose in terms of your digital confidence and knowledge and expertise, how would you describe yourself? And I know that you're going to be quite modest here, but how would you describe your digital knowledge?
It's improving. It's definitely improving. I mean, literally minute by minute, it's improving at the minute. I think being forced into this situation makes you have to do it. Yeah. I've always been I'll do it if I need to person. And if I need to do it and I need to find out, I will find out.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better at finding out now. I used to just go, oh, I can't do this, and just like not bother. So this digital lockdown thing, it's made me do stuff that I've been trying to do for ages, but it's probably actually given me that I needed to do it, so I just did it.
Yeah.
So improving minute by minute.
And in terms of how you've learned, are you somebody that just sort of learns by doing or by listening or by watching? What's been your approach?
Well, that's kind of evolved as well, because like if you think, like I used to just like want to do something, ask my family, my daughter, my husband, whoever, and they would say, yeah, you do this, and they would show me, and I wouldn't pay any bit of attention, so I couldn't do it again. Then I thought, well, this isn't really working, so now actually maybe I need to pay attention. So I started to pay a little bit of attention. So I like to watch. My favourite way of learning at the moment is, like, if I want to do Google Forms, is to go onto the online meet that you've had, and then I pause and work along with it.
Okay. Yeah, a lot.
I find that as they're doing it, I do it, and that works for me. I did a Bitmoji classroom doing that as well.
Fantastic. You see, this is what I love about Christine, is the fact that she'll say that she's not got the confidence. And what she does is at the end of a sentence, she'll drop in something, she'll say, not very good about Google Forms, but yeah, I created a Bitmoji classroom, and you're sort of hooked into it. that's what we find with Christine, that she'll, sort of plead sort of ignorance about some things, and then at the very end of that sentence drop in something else that she's really good at. So in terms of, I suppose, the school itself, when lockdown kicked in, how confident were you about the children and staff's ability to cope with this digital revolution, if you like? How ready for it were they?
Pretty ready, I have to say. We've been pretty much on the digital journey. We've got a really, really good digital leader, Charlie. She was my probationer a couple of years ago. She's young. She's taken on the digital leadership. So we're in all the Chromebooks were ready to go. They were always charged. We're in a good place for that. We've got Dojo embedded. So we always communicate with our parents through Dojo all the time. We don't really use Facebook apart from information. It's all through Dojo. So they're used to receiving everything through Dojo. So we had a staff meeting. Some classes said they were going through Dojo. The younger ones and the older ones said, well, we'll use Google Classroom. And some classes were kind of using a middle. Everybody had been using it in their classrooms anyway, particularly our P4 teacher, who's Charlie, because they had a child off having chemo. And she was being taught while she was at hospital through the Google Classroom. She was just coming on through Google Meets into the classroom. So we were probably quite far ahead in using it. It's just then refining it as to how we needed to use it properly out with.
And in terms of the parents, how confident do you think they were? I mean, if you put yourself into the shoes of the parents on that day of the announcement of the lockdown and the sort of indications becoming quite clear that we're moving towards digital learning for the next months, what do you think, generally speaking, their viewpoint would have been?
I think they would. I mean, our sevens have their Chromebooks home, so they were pretty independent, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had to sit a couple of times. I've sat with a parent and a child and taught them through how to work Scratch, for example, because they were stuck. And you don't mind doing that kind of thing. I think the parents have kind of learned with us. We always put the day's work out on Dojo the day before, so the parents know what's coming the next day, and then I pop it in my classroom so that the parents have got advance warning of what the kids are going to be doing. So they've kind of gone with us, I think. Because they're used to Dojo, because they're used to how we work. We've got good relationships with them. We always have done. They're always welcome at the school. So they can ask questions and they're not worried asking questions, I think.
Yeah. Keep a tally chart of how many times Christine does that. Because you notice at the end of the previous sentence, she just said, I helped a child with Scratch. So again, something that you just exactly the same thing again, throwing something else that you do into the equation. Far too modest, I think. So in terms of, I suppose, parents, I mean, that's really important. I think that parents have that relationship and can come and ask. Obviously, I'm not asking you to sort of name in terms of other schools around the area, but how confident do you think other schools, in the sort of north of Highlands were? Do you think you kind of were unique in that sense, or do you think that, what you had set up was quite different from other schools?
I think our school's always been pretty forward with the digital stuff anyway. We've really gone with it. I think other schools, I mean, they've all got Dojo set up. They've all got classroom set up. So I think we're all kind of in the same place. I think we were really ready to roll with it. Just like it really was an easy rollout for us. We decided before we left how we were going to manage it. We met, we decided, we didn't really have to meet 1 week after we go back and say, what we're going to do, because we already had a plan. We stuck with it. We all filled in the online reflection thing that was issued online. And we all kind of came up with the same things, and it's all working really well in all the different ways.
And in terms of, as a class teacher, what's your sort of go-to tool? What's the tool? I think you've mentioned Dojo, but what's the tool that you probably would say you're most reliant on in terms of your day-to-day teaching?
At the moment, Google Classroom and Google Meets. I meet every morning at 9:30. We have a catch-up. It's a great time. Well, we start with Google Hangouts, where I choose a Bitmoji that says good morning, throw it out in the Hangout, and they have a race to see who can get the same Bitmoji back. It's a kind of morning race. I can be a bit evil and do it at 7:30 if I wake up, but you still get them. I think they've set alerts up. So I kind of try and engage them just right from the beginning. We all have a chat in the Hangout. Good morning, how's the weather? We just have a general, they tell you that they're high and cows have had calves and things. Then it happens, then we kind of migrate onto the Meet, where they kind of trickle in. And as they trickle in, we chat and whatever, and they give me their stories of the day. So I try and make it like they're coming in the classroom. So coming down the playground. And then at 9:30, it's like mics off. They're really, really good. I go, right, mics off, and all these red mics pop along the screen. And I kind of do a bit of chat, or Mrs. King does the chat. We tell them what's up for the day. Then we do any questions kind of thing, and then they head off for some work.
And in terms of one of the things that jumped out at me when we spoke before was the engagement from the pupils.
Yeah.
Because you spoke about the fact that this was at a digital drop-in. We were talking about the fact that lots of schools have had sort of poorish engagement, which fluctuates from time to time. But one of the things that you said that really stood out was the fact that your pupils had really engaged with what you were doing. Can you maybe outline a bit about how that has been for you?
Well, about when I do my 9:30 meet, I've got a class of 31, so I generally get between 25 and 29 usually coming onto that meet, which I think was really good. I mean, there's a couple that usually they trickle in at some point in the day. I also do at 12 o'clock, I read a book. I was in the middle of reading Wonder when lockdown happened, so they're like, "Oh, you have to finish the book." I thought, okay. So I took the book home and we finished reading the book over online, which is really quite bizarre reading to a pile of screens looking at you. But you get used to it kind of quickly. And then when I finished that book, they begged for another book, so I found another book, and now we're on another book. So every day at 12, I read a book. And again, if they haven't been on at 9:30, they could often trickle on there.
Yeah.
And then I give them flexibility. I say, right, I don't really mind when you work. Like, this is really sunny today. Go out and play. Do your work. It's going to rain tomorrow. Do your work tomorrow. So they'll send me pictures of them on the trampoline. Oh, I'm doing my PE now. And I usually let them use their Hangouts to chat like that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, why do you think the engagement has been so high? But you've kind of almost alluded to that by saying that by giving them that freedom and the responsibility to almost plan their own week, rather than it being so dictated by today you must do this and today you must do that. What else do you think has also happened in terms of the engagement?
I think I've tried to make it things that they want to do. Like, we're making, some of them are chosen. I give them the option to make a film. If we'd been in school this term, we would have been doing making films, making serially, writing scripts. So I thought, well, let's just take that home. So I sent the cat home on the Google Classroom and said, right, we're not going to do all of this, but hey, if you want to make a film, you know, so we kind of planned that. I made a bit of my film, posted a bit of my film up with Buddy and Charlie. My husband is a useless actor. I'm just going to put that out there. I had outtakes I have outtakes I could not play to my class. I could definitely do an X-rated version of Buddy's and Charlie's movie.
Blooper reel. I like it.
So like, they've engaged with that, and I sent one down to digital. One of the ones with the Lego that Jackson did.
Oh yeah, for This Was Highland. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, so a few of them. So I'm trying to do things like, if it's science, then it's science that's fun. We've got this should be our trip week just now. So next week I've got like a digital trip week, our virtual trip, where they've got a task every day. I did tell them they said, what are we doing? So I said, well, you're going to get up at 8:30, you're going to sit in your chair and you're going to juggle for like half an hour. And then you're going to go off and go to the toilet and eat your bag of crisps, and you're going to get back on the bus and you're going to juggle again. Then you're going to go off, have your lunch and make your bed. And they went, no, I won't make you do all of that. But so I've kind of got activities set up for them next week that would be linked to the trip and things like that. So that's kind of how I do it. Just make it interesting for them.
Yeah. And I think I get the impression that you're not on 24/7.
No.
But you're available to them, for large chunks of the day, aren't you? Not necessarily saying to them, you have to come and speak to me, but it's more just saying to them, if you need me, I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, somebody sent their maths show on Saturday morning when I was coming back from my click and collect at Tesco's, because it's a real big excursion, because you get to drive to Wick if you do a click and collect. So that's why I do it. So a wee email came in saying, oh, sorry, my maths late. And I just replied, said, that's okay, it doesn't matter, you're welcome. And it's just little things like that. They send me pictures of their Saturday morning pancakes they've made for breakfast, and it's just keeping that interest going, I think. I choose to do that, I know others don't, and I don't think it matters, but it suits me to do that.
Yeah, and the proof is definitely in the pudding, in the fact that you've got such a high engagement level, and that's undoubtedly. I mean, what it sounds like from speaking to you and from knowing you already is just that relationships are key.
I think relationships are really key,
and that's that trust. It's that trust from both sides. The fact that you're able to give them that space to plan their day. I love the idea of you being available, because I think teachers quite often have the idea of when it's a Google Meet that you have to be physically in the room with the person, speaking to them the whole time. But I think it's just being available, isn't it, in case somebody needs that support like you are in the classroom.
Well, that's what I've tried to make it. I've tried to make it like we're in the classroom.
Yeah.
I just I chat, I let them chat. Then I say, right, okay, one of the kids likes music, so he always chooses the music.
Yeah.
So there's music, and eventually I say, right, you're going to have to put your music off now, and he puts his music off now, and then we all just listen. And we had a high school teacher. I invited a high school teacher on to speak to them, and I think we've got 35 primary sevens between ours, the Gaelic, and our our Gaelic class, and I think I had 31 on, and they all sat as good as gold with mics muted, typing questions. You know, I think they're better than some adults, to be honest. They were so good and they listened so well. It was really good.
That's brilliant. I have been looking at transition a little bit, so that's quite a nice idea. We always think about it from the point of view of the primary school. What can we do to support, you know, the secondary school? But that's doing it in reverse almost, and saying secondary staff speaking to the pupils again in the same way that they would do in the real world. So, I mean, you've talked a little bit about the fact that Dojo and Google Classroom and Google Meet. Is there any other app or extension that you've seen over the course of this time that sort of jumped out at you as being, I suppose, transformational, or something that you think, wow, I'm really glad that I've discovered that?
Well, Google Forms, I have to say, I came onto a drop-in and thinking, I don't really know what question I want to ask, but I need to know some more things. So I just came to drop-in because people ask questions that you didn't know you needed to know, I find.
Yep.
So I just popped on there, and somebody was asking how they could get all their photographs in one place because their photographs were going everywhere. So I listened to that, and it was about Google Forms and uploading that. So I thought, okay, I didn't quite understand it at the time, but I thought, right, I'll go away. So then I went, had a look at Google Forms. Right, okay, now I'm confused. So I went straight to the video training that was already there, and followed that. And now I've got links for different photographs. So there's like a sports day. If they've got sports photographs, they've to upload them in that link. If they've got work, they upload them in that link. It doesn't always work, but I'm trying. You know, they're pretty random at where they send stuff, but they're trying to do as much as they can properly.
I agree, and that's a brilliant use of forms, because what Christine's describing is the fact that you set a form up so that it will actually, if a pupil wants to upload a photo, rather than contacting Christine and saying, I'm sending this photo, using the Google form, you can have it set to upload and straight into your Google Drive. So you don't have to worry about the file being too big, unless it's massive, or, you know, being told that this has been uploaded for you, because it goes straight into your Google Drive. So yeah, it's a really powerful tool, and it just gets around that whole thing of that horrible email chase of, I can't send it, it's too big, I can't receive it, my inbox is too full. So in terms of, I suppose in terms of kind of going forward from here, whenever that is that we return to the old normal, how do you see digital learning? I suppose when we go back to the classroom, how do you see it fitting in to the old way of doing things, if you like? Which parts of it would you like to try and keep, and which parts would you?
I would certainly keep my classroom. I mean, I had a classroom anyway. I probably just didn't quite know how to work it properly. So I really do like the classroom. I would be a bit more organised setting up a new classroom because I totally get how it works now. So I would definitely keep my classroom. I would definitely keep my Google Forms for photographs and things because I think that works really well. I would start my book creator book at the start of the year, and I would give them a page and say, this is your book for the year. I might have like a house captain page when our house captain election. I would certainly start a lot of things from the beginning. I think I'd use for their homework would become digital. I wouldn't be having writing down anything or sending sheets home. It would all be on the computer now, I think, their homework and stuff.
And what's the, I mean, obviously you've got P6 this year. Is that right? P6? Yeah, P7. Yeah. In terms of the school, how do you think the P5s coming up are going to be different in terms of digital skills? Are you expecting more from them, having been, you know, locked down with technology for the past 3-4 months?
Oh, absolutely, because their teachers using the Google Meets. They're not necessarily using their Google Classroom, but they're used to using their Google Meets. They're used to talking. I think he does a drop in where he's in 3 times a day. He's got 3 time slots, and they can drop him whenever they like in that time slots for help, which works really well. So they're used to these kind of devices. They don't have Chromebooks at home, but some of their siblings do. So they're just used to logging in. They're used to working online. They're just hopefully more independent as well. I think it will have helped. It has suited a lot of children, have done really well with organisation. It doesn't obviously suit them all, and some find it harder. But for some of them have thrived with the organisation. I've got one that gets up at 8 o'clock and does his work because then it's done.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting, the fact that some people, some people perhaps haven't suited this style, but others, definitely. There'll be some who don't like that face-to-face or find the face-to-face more challenging. For them, this is absolute dream. So it's really, it's nice to hear that. I suppose my final couple of questions would be, if somebody said to you, I tried to ask this question last week, what would you tell your 10 weeks ago self about digital learning? You know, if you're giving advice to yourself, say 10 weeks ago, pre-lockdown, in terms of giving yourself that pep talk about digital learning, what would you say to yourself?
I would say just like stick with it, don't give up, see what you need, work out what you need when you need it, and just go with it. And there's loads of people out there to help. That's what I found is so beneficial. I think at the start I didn't know the digital scheme was really out there to be so helpful. I didn't know that I could drop in and get instant help. That has been the best thing ever. And emails, to be honest, replying to getting an email at 8 o'clock at night telling you how to do something is superb because you think, oh, that's so good, I can do that now. Do you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's just like, don't be scared, just do it, and it will all fall into place.
Yeah.
However rubbish you think you are, you can actually do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Highland has become actually smaller during the lockdown because I think people feel much more connected. There are people making connections for the first time who geographically couldn't, but actually with digital learning, it's so straightforward. I mean, I think the fact that we've been able to sort of build up a relationship over these weeks as well, just through digital drop-in and through emails, as you say. So I guess I suppose the final question really is just to say, what's your target between now and the summer? What are your final 2 or 3 things, or one thing that you want to achieve before you say goodbye to your pupils?
I suppose I want to make, because they're going to high school, I want to make sure that they're less reliant on Dojo. Some still send work through Dojo. I want to get them fully au fait with Classroom, so that, because they're obviously going to blended learning at the high school, this is a huge thing for them. So I want to make sure they can use the Classroom properly, that they can upload to links. I want to make sure they can transition to high school. For myself, I just want to kind of think about how I'm going to use this next year without getting a huge workload, and how we can support each other. We've already got primary 7 classrooms. We've got, classrooms. I've got more digital classrooms than I ever knew I had in real life. My classroom page is quite busy.
Yeah. Well, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much for speaking to us. It has been a real pleasure, and it's one I've been looking forward to because I think your sort of modesty and I think just your kind of, I don't know what it is, maybe just that inability to understand, that what you're doing may appear simple to you, but actually it's making a massive difference. And I would argue that the engagement you've got with your pupils is, as good as any that I've heard. So I suppose on behalf of everybody that's been doing the digital learning, thank you for your input.
That's
But
okay.
thank you for joining us during this chat as well.
Thank you very much. I've got about 25 chats to answer now.
All right. Yeah, I haven't looked
Hangout.
at my emails. My emails will probably have the same number as well. Anyway, thank you so much for chatting to us.
Thank you very much.
And if you're watching this, hopefully you'll join us again for the next episode of the Digital Diaries. Thanks very much then.
Thank you.